everyone, welcome to a Jungle of Joy. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use my How to Make a Jack-O-Lantern Expository Writing product. When you download this product, you will get a welcome letter that explains the product, an expository intro notes tab that gives hints and tips on how to write a successful expository piece, writing process tabs, interactive notebook foldable activities for each part of the writing process, publishing Craftivity pieces, extension writing sheets, a rubric for easy grading, digital models, step-by-step lesson plan which includes tips, tricks, as well as internet sites and app suggestions that are great supplemental materials to enhance your lessons. And this video. For this video, I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions on how to complete your expository writing Craftivity for Halloween. So let's begin. So whenever I begin any unit, I like to engage my students and make them excited about what they're going to be doing. So one technique that I use is called a mystery bag. So to do this, I put a mystery object in the bag, and then I have students come up and describe what they feel inside the bag. As they do this, I write some of the sensory words that they use on the pumpkins that I provide to begin our word wall that they can refer to while writing their paper. When you download this product, you will get word wall words that are in the shape of pumpkins, and you can use them to create your own word wall. I also have blank ones that you can use during this process and write the words that the students are using at that time. Once this is done, I will reveal that the inside object is a pumpkin. So if they guessed it right, that's great. I usually help them along so they do get it. So the mystery object in this bag is a pumpkin, so they'll know that we'll be doing a unit around pumpkins. So after we do our mystery bag, we're ready to begin. So what I do is I give them out their first introductory piece. This, I like to have an index for all of their writing pieces. So this is how to writing or expository writing, and it gives the definition, information on how to write a descriptive writing piece, what not to forget, and helpful hints. And what's really great about this is that it is in a checklist, it's in a checkbox format, so the students can just check it off as they are writing. It also comes with tabs for each part of the writing process that they can put in their notebook, so everything's really organized and they can easily refer back to it while they're writing their piece. To use this page, I have the students cut out the top piece and then keep these tabs in their folder to use at a later date. When they're finished cutting it out, it will look something like this. And the tabs make it super easy for the kids to find where they need to be for the upcoming lesson. After we discuss what an expository writing piece is, I like to give them an idea and give them a couple of examples of what they can do. So at this time, I put on a YouTube video that describes the process of making a jack-o'-lantern. The YouTube videos that I use are going to be part of the product when you download it, so you don't have to go searching, it'll be right there for you. So now that the students know how to make a jack-o'-lantern, they're ready to begin writing. So we have a couple of brainstorming activities that we're going to do. So the first brainstorming activity that they're going to do is going to be about verbs. So what they're going to do is cut out the pumpkin, and they're going to glue the stem, only the stem, into their notebook. Underneath the pumpkin, they're going to write verbs that they think that they could use in their story. So after your students are done cutting out and gluing in their first brainstorming activity, it should look something like this. As you can see, the pumpkin is glued in by the stem, and you can lift it up to see verbs that they will be using throughout the writing process. Some verbs that I picked were carve, cut, clean, decorate, trace, slice, scoop, design, create, and draw. So I usually have my students use a thesaurus app that they have on their iPads, but you can use a regular thesaurus, or you can just have them work in partners or groups to brainstorm words. As you can also see with this first brainstorming activity, because it's the first activity for brainstorming, I use my brainstorming tab right here so that they can easily know where their words are when they're writing their rough draft and final copy. So once the students are done working on their verb brainstorming activity, we're going to brainstorm different adjectives that we're going to be using within our story. So to do this, we're going to first explore sensory words. To do this, we have a foldable called My Senses. And underneath here, you can see that I have a brain bubble, and it says adjectives describe, and the students will write the word nouns on the bottom dotted line. And that just introduces and reviews what an adjective is. To do this foldable, the students are going to cut out the big square, and they're going to cut just on the dotted lines to make flaps. They'll glue underneath the title bar, and underneath each flap, they will answer the questions based on their 5 senses. So for example, the top one says, sight. What colors do you see on a pumpkin? So what I usually do during this time is I have them take out their crayons and pick out any crowns that they think would show up on a pumpkin. And they can use all the creative colors that they use within a Crayola packet. Once the students are finished cutting out and gluing in their sensory page, it will look something like this. And as you can see at the top, it says adjectives describe nouns, and then they have different flaps for each question, and the students write their answers underneath each flap. So now that the students have brainstormed verbs and adjectives, we can move on to our activity where we brainstorm adverbs. And this is a sheet that you're going to use right here. So first you're going to review by saying that adverbs describe verbs. And then at this time I also review that many adverbs end in ly, and that's mainly the adverbs that we're going to be using throughout our story. So once the students are done reviewing what an adverb is, they're going to cut out the 2 pumpkins and they are going to glue the top stems just like they did for the previous exercise. During this project, however, they're going to answer the questions that are on each pumpkin. So the first pumpkin says, what adverbs describe how to carve a pumpkin? So together as a class, we'll come up with some adverbs that describe how to carve a pumpkin. The next one says, what adverbs describe how to clean out a pumpkin? So again, either in groups or pairs or as a group, as a class together, we're going to come up with adverbs that describe how to clean out the pumpkin. After the students are done cutting out and gluing in their adverb activity, it should look like this. So as you can see, I overlapped the 2 pumpkins, which is fine. I just wanted them to fit on the same page, and you can actually lift up both pumpkins. So they're glued on at the stem, and you can easily lift them up and see what is underneath. Now that the students are done brainstorming their adjectives, adverbs, and verbs, we are now ready to move on to sequence words. So we are going to use this piece right here. At the top it says sequence words or phrases help authors tell the order of events. So that's just a quick reminder of why we have sequence words. And of course within an expository writing piece, we're going to be using our sequence words to write an order of events. In this case, how to make a jack-o'-lantern. So what the students are going to do is glue the whole pumpkin into their book. And then the students are going to write all different words of sequence that we go over together as a classroom. One tip that you might want to think of before doing this activity is have the students write maybe their words of sequence first and then glue it in. Sometimes the glue is a little bit wet, so it's hard for them to write on the pumpkin. So I usually have the students write their ideas first, then cut it out and glue it into their notebook. When the students are done gluing in their sequential order activity, it should look like this. So as you can see, I have the definition of sequential order at the top, and then inside I glued the entire pumpkin into my notebook, and inside the pumpkin I have words like then, later, first, next, lastly, last, after that, finally. So now that the students are done brainstorming all the words that they're going to be using for their writing piece, we are ready to begin pre-writing. So the first activity that we're going to do is our pre-writing drawing board. So what the students are going to do is draw pictures of each step for making a jack-o'-lantern. When the students are done drawing their pictures, they're going to cut out each square and they're going to fold it on the dotted line towards the picture. This will create a flap in their books. Underneath each flap, they're going to put their picture into words using their descriptive words that they brainstormed from earlier. After the students are done making their drawing board for the pre-writing activity, it should look like this. As you can see, I actually used 2 pages for this, and I actually skipped a page in my notebook because I wanted both pages to be next to each other so that I could see every step as it goes along. I didn't complete this this activity for the video. However, the finished activity will be in your digital model that you get when you download the product. So basically the pictures will be on the front, and then when you flip it up, there will be a written description of the picture for each step. As you can also see, I added the pre-writing tab, and I made sure that the pre-writing tab is able to be seen when the section is closed. So the brainstorming tab comes first, and then the pre-writing tab is right next to it. So after the students have written all the steps to the process for creating their own jack-o'-lanterns, I want the students to come up with opening and closing sentences. Because I don't just do the Craftivity, there's an extension piece that you can get that the students will turn their steps into a paragraph, just because I work with older students. If you're working with younger students, you'd probably skip this step and just have them write the actual steps to creating their jack-o'-lantern. But because mine are older, they can write a paragraph. So we're going to continue the pre-writing process by coming up with opening and closing sentences. So to do this, I have a remember up here, and it says your opening and closing sentences state your main idea. Both sentences have the same idea but are worded a bit differently. So I usually review this because this is probably one of the first major writing assignments I do since it's in October and it's the beginning of the year. So we go over what the main idea is and what an opening and closing statement are, and we come up with a couple of ideas together as a group, and I model how to write both and how to change the words so that they do have the same idea but they're different sentences. So what the students are going to do is cut out these two squares here, including this rectangle right here. These are going to be attached. They're going to make a little booklet in their notebooks, so they're going to fold this piece back, and then behind each section will be their opening and closing statement. So once the students are done cutting out and gluing in their opening and closing statements, it should look something like this. As you can see, I turned my book to the side so I could fit both of the statements next to each other, and I glued the reminder at the top. These are little books, so they can easily flip them open to see their opening and closing statements. Now that we are done pre-writing, the students will work on a rough draft, and I'll just have them write that in their next page of their books. And then once I check it and they do a revision, they're ready to begin the fun part, the really fun part, the Craftivity. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the 3 pages provided here. The one page is the actual writing portion of the Craftivity. The next page is the top and bottom of the pumpkin that we're going to turn into a jack-o'-lantern. And the third page here are different options that you have to create your jack-o'-lantern. If the students don't like any of these options, they can always just draw in their own, or they can use other creative ideas such as construction paper, tissue paper, whatever they like. So to begin, the students are going to write their steps of the jack-o'-lantern process here, using their words of sequence, and they're describing words that they use from their word wall. When they're done that, they're going to cut it out. So as you can see, I cut out the entire piece. It has the 2 smaller rectangles at the top and the bottom. What I'm going to do with this piece is I'm going to fold it back and forth like a fan using the lines provided. So I'm going to start with the top one and fold back. And then I'm going to go to the next line and fold forward. And then I'm going to fold it just one more time on that third line. So when you open it up, you're going to get an accordion piece here. Now that this is done, I'm going to tell the students to put it to the side and to color in and to cut out their pumpkin piece. When they are done, it should look like this. And there's 2 pieces. The first piece we're going to glue to the top right here. And the second piece we're going to glue to the bottom like this. So when it closes it up, it's going to make a jack-o'-lantern. Now that the pumpkin is glued on, it is time to decorate it, which is really fun. So I colored in a couple myself. I'm going to use the bright ones, I think. I'm going to pretend that it's lit up. Okay, so I cut out my 3 pieces. I have 2 eyes and a mouth. And what I would do is instruct the students to put the eyes on the top piece and to have the mouth on the bottom piece here. So when you're done, it should look like this. This is my completed jack-o'-lantern. And because my students are older, I would actually extend the writing into using these steps here to create a paragraph. So what I would do is have them write a rough draft and then revise it within their journals, and then when they're done, they can write their finished copy here. what I do is I put this on the back, I back it up with construction paper, and then I put these two pieces next to each other in the hallway. It's really great because I do this in the beginning of October, so then I can have these decorating our hallway throughout the entire month of October. The students love reading each other's work. I constantly see other students stopping and reading my kids' work and looking at the jack-o'-lanterns, and the teachers love it too, and the parents absolutely love it. It's so much fun. I hope that your kids have just as much fun as my kids had making this Craftivity. I found that yes, there are a lot of steps, but there's a lot of steps to the writing process, and this project usually takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks depending on my students. But I do notice that by creating an interactive notebook with my students throughout the entire writing process, it really helps them to be engaged throughout the entire writing process, and they get very excited about writing time throughout the month of October, or whenever we do an interactive writing unit. A lot of times what I do is put on spooky music while they're writing and turn off some of the lights, and that kind of gives them the sense of eeriness while they're working on their Halloween pieces. So that's a fun tip for when your students are creating their pieces too. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Don't forget to subscribe for more tutorial tips and other products. And don't forget to follow me on Teachers Pay Teachers to be the first to find out about freebies, deals, and new products. So I hope that you have a really fun time, a really great and exciting Halloween with your students, and I'll see you next time. Happy teaching!